Alright, so this is how to customize the eyes of default valorant models in Blender. We're going to have 3 levels and they're going to kind of rise in complexity each time. So as a quick overview before we get started, number 1 is going to be simply retexturing the base model. Number 2 is going to be adding your own model, be it Tiny Eye or a model you've made, but for this example we're going to use Tiny Eye. And level 3 is going to be adding extra parts like carancles, tear lines, and a bit of a lens type thing. Alright, so real quick, I was a bit stupid and I forgot to record the voice over for section 1. All the other sections are fine, but for this one I'm going to kind of voice over in post, so if it sounds a bit weird, don't worry, it's just... Alright, so quickly, all the keybinds, all the letters I hit, whatever, they're all in the bottom left corner. So if you're worried if I like hit a shortcut or something and you don't know what happened, just look down there and it'll be there. So this first one is just kind of changing the textures of the eye. It's not actually editing the base mesh or the model or anything. So it's just kind of retexturing it. So I can go to edit mode with the tab and then use L to select linked. The valorant model kind of selected up into different parts. It's not like a one whole mesh, so I can select different parts like this and it'll just kind of select that section of the mesh. So that's kind of handy thing about valorant models, but you can just do that with the eyes and hit L to select them. So I'll go ahead and select both, then go to material properties and create a new one with plus, then hit assign. So assign just assigns the kind of selected faces to that, so I'll rename it eye just for ease. Then in the bottom left I can drag out a new window and I'll change that to shader editor, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to use I'm going to hide the skeleton first just for ease so I can see it, and I'm going to use these textures, which I'll have a link in the description to, but I'm just going to use them to texture the kind of eyes here. So yeah, I'll start by dragging the diffuse in, hooking that up. I'll just collapse them to save space. Roughness, go straight into roughness. Just all kind of basic shader setup. Normal, straight into a normal map of the colour. And make sure your normals are always on non-colour. The shortcut for that is just N, so I just hit N for non-colour and it switches it. Then I'm not going to use a height, but if you want like really details you can, but you'll have to subdivide it a lot. But I'm going to use this eyeball specular material as a kind of mask for the emission, because it's a nice section of the iris and it's just kind of an easy use for the mask. But first, the eyes aren't looking right yet. They're kind of mapped wrongly, so I'm going to open up a UV editor in a new window, and I'm just going to open up the diffuse material, but for ease I'm just going to kind of have the valorant material open. So go into edit mode to make sure you've got your eyeballs selected again. If you haven't, you can just reselect them with L again. Then go into the UV editor and select this kind of larger sphere, which is the kind of front of the eye. The smaller sphere is the back of the eye. You don't really have to do that because you're not going to be seeing it anyway, but this here you can just kind of leave it, but if you really want you can remap it, but you don't have to. So what I'm going to do is scale that just so it kind of fits this tile roughly, because that's where my eyeball texture was, so I'm just going to scale it so it fits pretty perfectly inside there. Then you can use this kind of outer ring of vertices as like a guide for where the iris should go. I'm going to make it nice and centered with that point in the middle. You can just use G to drag it around, and yeah, that's pretty much good. Might change it a little bit, but I'm happy with that. Then you can go ahead and collapse that window, and that's pretty much it. It's looking pretty decent. You can go ahead and look at it from a different angle with a HDR or whatever, but normal's looking pretty good there. But then with Valorant, because you guys always want to make it glowy and emissive for whatever reason, you can start off by adding a mix color node. Just Shift A to search up mix color, and then hook the specular into the factor, because the factor is kind of the mask, so it's going to act as our mask. Then the diffuse goes into the B output, and the color can go straight into the color. Then you need to change, you need to change the A to a black one, so that side of the mask is black. Then you can turn up the strength, and that's pretty much your emission there. You can add a color ramp to change kind of the intensity and the gradient of the emission, but it's up to you how you want that. You can even change it to B-spline to get a slightly different result and mess around with that, but it's kind of up to you really. And yeah, you can also add a hue saturation to change the emission color. But yeah, that's it for method 1. Right, now I'm going to start with method 2, which is removing the mesh eyes and adding your own. So I'm going to start by just going into edit mode of the object, hitting L to select linked on both eyes, X and delete vertices. Then now you'll see I literally just have kind of hole in the place of the eyes. So I can go to my asset browser, drag open a new window, to asset browser. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly go over how you install the TinyEye add-on. So I'm just going to go TinyEye downloads, go to the Gumroad page, it's the first link. Then you don't have to enter a price, you can get it for 0 and just hit purchase. Since I've already got it, I'm just going to hit view content. Then this will bring you to your download page, and you can either get the add menu or the asset browser. The add menu, so when you install it, it will show up under your Shift A to add an object, and it will show up like down here, TinyEye. And the asset browser, this version, will show up under the asset browser. So if you open up an asset browser, it will be under here, and you can navigate to TinyEye. And you can drag them all out from here and everything. Personally, I prefer using the asset browser for it, so that's the one I'm going to download. So I download that, get it in a file directory that I want. Then you're going to go to where you have that file, where you installed it, and this one you have to extract, you've got to unzip it. Then you can delete the Mac OS one. Then you're going to go to Blender, close out the asset browser, edit, preferences, file paths. I'm going to go down here, I'm going to remove the old one that I had. I'm going to add a new one, and I'm going to go to the same location that I had it installs. I'm going to click on that, I'm going to go add asset library. Then it should be all good. I can drag this up, go to the asset browser, can change this to TinyEye 1.3, and now I can decide which eyes I want. Say for Jet I'll do blue light realistic, so I'll just kind of drag that in, doesn't really matter where it goes. But in this one I'm going to go to constraints, and I'm going to add a child of and a copy location. The child of is going to be to the skeleton of Jet, so you can just drag up in the top right here in your in your file in your object hierarchy, or you can actually drag it onto the skeleton, but either way works. Then go to eye and set the bone to right underscore eyeball for both of them, and you'll see it's right where the kind of eye should be. If this doesn't go immediately, you might have to click like set inverse or clear inverse, whatever, but for me it just kind of works immediately. So I can apply copy location, then I'm gonna have to first scale this up so it kind of fits in the eyeball. So you want it so that it's like big enough, but if it starts getting across these kind of verges here, you don't want to scale it that far. So I'm gonna go till it's just about, I think that size is good for me. Then I'm gonna rotate it along the y-axis by hitting R and Y. I'm also gonna hide the skeleton, just freeze. Hit R and Y, and I'll rotate till I'm happy, so something like that. Then what I'm gonna do is Shift D, then right click to deselect, then change the constraint to left underscore eyeball, and yeah, I think that's all good. If it like gets to the wrong place, you might have to either try set inverse clear inverse or add another copy location modifier, but that looked like it all added in right. You can check by just seeing if it's on the tip of those bones there. And the good thing about this is now if you go into pose mode, is you can select the bone for the eye, and you can rotate it, you can do whatever, you can grab it, and this will kind of automatically move with the model. You won't need to worry about weights or anything, it just sticks with it. And for this to work in Eevee, you'll need to go to your render properties, and under screen space reflections, you'll need to turn on refraction so that the kind of glass thing works. Might take a second to load. There you go, and that's looking pretty nice. But as always, if you want it to glow, you can come over here and go to your shader editor. Now I'm just going to collapse this slightly. I'm going to click on the tiny eye, and I can scroll down here. Make sure you're in the emission, not the sclera. Go in emission, and I can scroll down and check either iris or pupil, do whatever I want. If you really want to, you can go in, right click, edit group, and where is this? You can go over to the shaders and mess with the strength of the emission. You can use one of the masks they have over here, but you can just mess around with that however you like. But yeah, that is also, you can kind of mess around with all of these settings in here and change how exactly you want it to show up, and with just a bit of kind of mess around you can change it to be something that you prefer. Alright, so now I'm going to quickly go over method number 3. This one isn't going to be so much like a direct tutorial, it's just going to be kind of overviewing what you can do. But these folders will be in the description, and once you download it, you can go into the Blender folder and go to Blender scene, and you can load this up. And this is a nice kind of source model, template model, that you can use to help kind of decide exactly what you're going to do with your conversion. You know, there's a bunch of kind of skin shaders and basic stuff. So this is the kind of eye wets, they call it, but it's like a tier line. And what you can do is either you can just model this yourself, like it's not too bad. You just extrude some rectangles and then subdivide it. Or you can just directly import this, or go file, append, and append it to your folder, or sorry, to your blend file, and use proportional editing to, if I grab that, it'll kind of affect all the stuff around it. If I turn it off, it'll be just that. So you can use proportional editing and just kind of move bits of it so that they line up with the valorant model. But that's up to you. Then with this kind of lens thing, can help you get proper reflections in cycles. So if I try not to kill my PC real quick. Yeah, so if you go into cycles, and let's go to this one just because it's in the light, you can see you get these really nice reflections, but if you hide it, they're just kind of not so good. See, it's not there anymore. If you hide both of these, you can see in here you have this kind of piece of skin called a caruncle, Now, Valorant models don't have that, so you can either go in and sculpt this in yourself. You can also kind of model a little triangular looking thing and just get that in there. If you don't want to model your own eye for like extra realism and more control, you can kind of copy and paste this eye model in and switch out the textures, or go in Photoshop and change this texture. And the thing that this has is, you'll see it's not a perfect kind of sphere. You can kind of do this with Tiny Eye, but when you model it yourself, I modeled this myself for the Phoenix project, which I'll probably put up. But when you model it yourself, you can get the cornea to stick out precisely, and it just ends up looking a lot better, and you can get it to be a lot more realistic. But you know, you don't really have to unless you're doing like a super close up. But you can also simulate the actual lens. But yeah, I'm not gonna cover the tutorial on that. Then in terms of making eyelashes and stuff, I might make like a eyelash and eyebrow tutorial, because it's not too hard. It's just kind of some particles, and you got to groom them a bit, and it's not that complicated. So if you guys want a tutorial for, you know, eyebrows, eyelashes, maybe a bit of peach fuzz or whatever, let me know and I'll probably do that. Also, if you want a tutorial for how you do skin like this, I can probably also do that. Just let me know. So thank you for watching, and any other future tutorials that you want, please just let me know in the comments, and that's all. See you in a bit.